Have you here? All right. And Christopher, all right. Welcome. Man, we're gonna have fun today. It's gonna be fun. Plus, we're getting what you call it? Giving away a Surface today. All right, we got the music coming on. The camera doesn't like me moving, right? Hey, all right. Hello from Minnesota. I hope it's Minnesota. Could be Montauk. What's another MN? Montana? Minnesota. All right. Christine. Salt Lake City. Yeah. Man, Salt Lake City is beautiful to fly into in the winter. I mean, maybe the winter is kind of rough, but man, you see all the snow on the mountains on the top. It's breathtaking. Christine. Salt Lake City. Yeah. Evansville, Indiana. Tyler, Nick Schwalbach, Sean Ambrose. All right. Yeah, kind of cool, huh? All right. Yeah, we're getting. All right, all right, all right. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Want to say thank you so much for coming today. I think my video is coming on here in a second. My name is Sherman Crancer. I'm the founder of the Crancer Group and president of Surveil North America. And if you came here today to learn about, effective net new sales techniques, this is the place to go for net new customer acquisition. We've got a jam-packed agenda today. Which is fantastic. Now, from the people that are here right now, as well as the folks that are on LinkedIn, go ahead and go to the chat window and type in, who you are, what company you're with, and what you specialize in. We want to use this as a networking opportunity for everybody here as well. I like to give back. I mean, this is our platform here, but we really want you to do that. Also, please put in questions today. I'm going to be the actual main speaker today, going through a lot of net new custom acquisition, ideas for you. And you should leave today with a few things, getting some information from some partners out there, some really heavy hitter speakers that we have. And then number two, be able to, take from what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff. We're also going to help you out with a document that you're going to be able to take with you to actually implement right now for nurture type of marketing. So we have the welcome here. I always start off with ask yourself the question, are you a leader or a dreamer? Now dreamers are the ones that talk about what they're going to do, and leaders are the ones that talk about or do what they actually talk about. Ask yourself that question when you are listening to this type of thing. So our guest contributors are not speakers today. As we actually did recordings. We're changing the format a little bit. We did some recordings already. And it's Aditya Mohan from Skykick, which is a great partner of us. They're helping us with the giveaways. Walter Silin, president of Bowen Solutions, will be on again. And then Victor Gallego from IBM Technology Solutions, a dear friend of mine, one of, the most incredible sales leaders I've ever met in my life. And I just want to say that. Then we're going to do some little Q&A maybe, but the Q&A actually just comes all the way through with what we have right now. And then let's go with the giveaway at the end. And so we're going to give away two things, a Surface, and then we're also going to give away $3,000 in marketing demand gen, or if you want to use that for some consulting on your business for that, but we're giving that away as well. So a bunch of things in here, so stick around. It's awesome. Okay, perfect. Ooh, look at that, RJ. Look at that, Uncommon Solutions. That's pretty cool. I actually like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get in the state of the business and of IT. I want to kind of get started by laying the foundation of what I see. So I've worked at Microsoft for 4.5 years. My first iteration in Microsoft was I was working with Breath Partners. So I had about 6,000 I was influencing, when I was at Microsoft. And then the last iteration, my last 2.5 years, I worked with the top 40 managed service providers in the Western region. And those folks were anywhere between $50 million to $350 million in annualized revenue. So I've had, an incredible amount of just experience in working with, partners and watching how they actually do business. Furthermore, with the Crancer Group, the last 3 years, we've effectively not probably, but I think it's 62 partners that have run through our programs. And so we really see what's going on. So let's start off with the state of the business in IT. The first thing to kind of think about is let's understand our current partner base and a lot of our struggles. What are some of the struggles that we actually work with? So our partner base is typically we're gonna watch the today. There's typically 90% engineering, 10% sales and marketing, right? Let's be honest with each other. That's probably what it actually is, and how it actually, comes together. The great tacticians, you have amazing businesses, you help your customers, you probably have a very low attrition rate. Now, your current customer acquisition method is what I call, and this is just kind of spreads across the board, is the I'm on fire method. Now, what I mean, I'm on fire is somebody calls you because their network is down or something has come that they got a referral from so-and-so, they call you up, and our current partners are great at saying, hey, I can help fix you. Right. And I can help fix you. And you go in there and you do a great job. And then what happens? You end up turning it into either a managed service type of question, or you turn it into professional services or type of opportunity. Now, what is missing in our partner community is net new customer acquisition abilities. And I see this all the time. It's unbelievable. There are so many partners that I've talked to that want to start a sales type of business, or not a sales type of business, but a sales arm inside of their organization. However, they just don't know what to do or how to do it, or the mechanics of a salesperson and actually how that actually works, right? And you end up with a lot of struggles with actually doing that. So net new customer acquisition is always hard and it is difficult. And I think that's one of the things I want to kind of talk about is it is very, very difficult with net new partner acquisition to get that off the ground. You have to be very precise, you have to be very persistent, and you have to really be organized. And we're going to be talking about that today. I've got a lot of great ideas for you that you'll be able to take away, right? So I think some of the biggest, struggles the partners are facing is also like hiring salespeople. Right? Do we hire one? Do we hire 10? What are the costs that we actually hire them at? Right? What is it? $50,000 a year? Is it $120,000 a year? What are the expectations that we actually should be expecting from that? Our partners also have trouble with managing their salespeople because the idea of a salesperson, and I'm going to have an opinion here because I've been in a few other industries. Okay, the idea of a salesperson is somebody who comes in and brings in 3 or 4 deals a year. Okay, 3 or 4 deals a year, right? The reality is that particular salesperson should be doing 3 to 4 deals a month. But for some reason in our industry, we've allowed this to be the pervasive idea that is kind of goes or spans across the whole industry that our salespeople just don't do enough sales deals per year, and we're okay with that. So we have to really kind of talk about that. So the last thing I'm going to mention here before we get into our next our contributor, okay, we're bringing in Skykick, is the average number of deals across the US for partners is 4.5. That's net new per year. 4.5. That's the average. That was a study that we commissioned at Microsoft when I was there. 4.5. Think about that. That's no way to scale a business. You need to figure out how to do it. So I'm going to do 2 things today. We're going to give you a little bit of this high level kind of from the owner of this of the practice, but also if you're here as a salesperson or you're here as a individual contributor, I've got some fantastic stuff for you that we'll go ahead and do. All right. So what we want to do here is we're going to go ahead. We're bringing in Aditya Mohan from Skykick. They're an amazing partner. If you don't know their background, they were the migration partner of the year. Back in, I think, 2016, when Office 365 came out, right? Office 365 came out. They were the ones that helped us all do the migrations. But then they've since evolved, right? And just, now they have the security manager. They also have cloud backup. They are a fantastic ISV. If you haven't talked to them about their products, I would highly suggest that you actually talk to them. And I'm having a focus problem. So let's go ahead and play our interview with Aditya. Thank you. Hey, Aditya, thanks so much for coming on to this session of the Voice of the Microsoft Partner. Really appreciate it. You're a real captain and leader in our industry, and I'm just so thrilled to get your thoughts and ideas on net new customer acquisition. Would you mind just introducing yourself and a little bit about what you do and the company you represent?
Hey Sherman, how you doing? This is great. I mean, I love being out here and just sharing all the learnings that we have from the 30,000 plus partners that we work with here at Skykick. Yeah, I'm Aditya Mohan. You can look me up on the LinkedIn. That'll tell you, how many jobs I've been successful at and then the ones I haven't been. But one thing I've always been successful at is actually interacting and helping, provide guidance to some of our partners around how they can be successful and strategies from a customer acquisition perspective, not just sales strategies but also marketing strategies. That's why I have the alliance marketing in my name out here. So thanks again for having me. Just by way of quick introduction on what we do at Skykick, right? We basically provide a platform for MSPs to be able to make their customers successful along their cloud journey, right? We started out, around 10 years ago with a migration product, which helped, customers on the on-premises move to the cloud, and, again, evolve that into a recurring revenue model so that partners can actually start seeing the ongoing, fruits of their labor, right? And then we have recently, evolved into a couple of new product lines. One of them is around managing the customer relationship and on an ongoing basis, which means securing the SaaS and the PaaS and all the 4-letter acronyms that are out there. But really the product we are most excited about right now is the Security Manager product. And, we'll talk about it as we go through this, but basically, the crux of it is around providing tools and capabilities for partners to be able to provide the customers the peace of mind that they need, as all these security things are rampant out there. One thing I want to, kind of set the stage with is that, because we're 100% partner organization, my focus today is going to be more around, how partners can be successful in customer acquisitions as opposed to necessarily how we do it, right? Because again, our success is predicated upon the success of our partners being able to acquire new customers for us.
So, Aditya, you and I were talking about this earlier, and I really love this idea of this term called "play it right." Would you mind, kind of describing that and how you see it? And I think there's a slide that's coming up to show visually these great ideas.
Yeah, I figured, people are going to be sick of watching me. I figured I should show some slides, right? So you can remember this visually. But yeah, no, I think, the play it right is critical in the sense that at the end of the day, you need to figure out how are you managing your cloud business, right? How are you evolving with the times? And is there a need to re-engineer that based on the trends in the society and in the market? Right. So for instance, again, you got to figure out, what's happening in technology. It's evolving. Every day there's a new product out there. And how do you adopt the right technologies based on what the customer needs are? And how do you get to market in a timely manner before your competition is out there in front of you? Again, one of the things that the partners, like you, MSPs, have always, taken pride in is the fact that you've got experience, you've got the expertise, you've got the wherewithal of understanding what the customer needs are. None of the ISVs are going to be able to, do that. So again, how do you package that IP and actually help differentiate yourself so that, you're again providing value to your customers on an ongoing basis? And that actually is all these things are critical for you to be able to successfully acquire the customers. And we talk a little bit more about customers as acquiring them. Again, that's why we are here. But again, things like data, AI, security, how do you make sure that all those are baked into your acquisition strategies? And finally, right, it's an ongoing relationship, right? Recurring revenue, cloud businesses are about not just acquiring, but also retaining and renewing. In fact, I would say that acquisition has got two aspects of it. There's acquiring new customers, and there's actually selling new technologies to existing customers, which again is a way of acquisition in itself.
What shifts do you see in the marketplace? Can you maybe kind of get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll give a couple of self-serving examples if you may out here, right? But again, one of the things that we have seen as an ISV, again, working with a lot of our MSPs, is that there's a huge customer demand for MSP security services, and guess what? There aren't enough MSPs out there who can provide that security services to their customers on a scalable and economical level, right? So again, 88% of the small businesses are worried about it. Over 255 million phishing attacks. The funny thing or the interesting thing I found is the top three attack sectors include professional services and IT. I guess, it's like, cobbler shoes. We're just not taking care of ourselves enough, right? But, in all seriousness, right, there are so many different, issues related to security services. How do you actually make sure that you can identify what are the key issues that your customers are running into, and how do you kind of go through a process of prioritizing that?
Well, that was really a great explanation. So let's kind of pivot a little bit. How would you say that you would, or what type of advice would you give to go to market for net new customer acquisition?
Yeah, I think this, as I was building upon this notion of, how do you have the right tools, the right products, the right offerings, bring to market, right? So one of the aspects around, one of the things that we have noticed working with the MSPs is that the MSPs who actually decide to standardize on an offering, right, see significantly increased revenues, right? Again, you can go through a build versus buy notion, which could take quite a bit of time. But again, building that relationship with the best of breed ISVs out there is critical for you to do that. And again, one of the things that we realized early in our product lifecycle was that if you can take the products like the backup product and the security manager product with Microsoft 365, right, being the baseline, we can enable the partners to sell a complete solution for the Microsoft 365 productivity and security, success. And again, the way the partners differentiate themselves is by providing the strategic advice, actually executing on it, and providing an ongoing support. So again, this helps accelerate, your time to market, but also enhance your revenue. And again, the second aspect of that is actually making sure that your IP is integral to that, right? And again, in a cloud world, IP, creating IP and embedding is much easier than in historic world, right? Because again, your IP is in the cloud. You don't have to like move it from one place to the other, right? So you can distribute it simply. And again, it drives scale for you. One of the examples that I wanted to share out here is that the new product security manager that we got, right? When you bundle it as a security bundle, as opposed to, selling it as an add-on to Microsoft 365, partners have seen a huge, increase in the MRR. And part of that increase is, helped by the increased savings, in the labor costs, because a lot of these products drive automation and all that. So again, take the products, package them up, add your IP as part of it, and that actually takes you to the point of figuring out, okay, now I have my baseline in place. How do I drive the acquisition, and how do I actually drive upsell as part of it, right? As you can see that, acquiring new customers and increasing revenue with the existing customers are really the two key areas that most of the partners are focused on today.
Yeah, those are some really great answers too. And I, talking about differentiation and then, research, I think it's really important to understand. And that's always, loved Skykick because, you came out as an office migration partner, right? You really helped them out with that, but then you evolved and it's like, okay, cloud backup, which we all need, right? And then now it's this new security manager, which is, by the way, to everybody on here, lights out. You've got to check this out. It is really something else. But, let me, what are some of the tactics that you would employ that would help with customer net new acquisition?
Right. Yeah, no, we just can't stick to this strategically, right? At the end of the day, the rubber's got to hit the road. So yeah, I mean, there are a few things that I've called out here. And again, some of these you might be familiar with, but again, I want to make sure that everyone's on the, level playing field out here. So one of the things that, I have, learned a lot from my MSPs is that at the end of the day, they need to continue bringing money in, right? You got to continue closing the deals, right? And again, marketing drives awareness, but again, the marketing lead gen really is a long play. You're really building for 6 to 9 month lead cycles, depending on what customers you're going after, right? And how do you balance that with your sales goals in the short term? So, talking about marketing, right? So one of the things that, we have, some of the ISPs that, the MSPs have figured out is that, hey, you know what? We don't have much of an marketing budget here. We have historically not done that. A lot of the MSPs might have technical skill sets, but not necessarily marketing skill sets. How can we work and identify ISPs who actually can be an extension of a marketing arm? Right. And again, we at Skykick are proud to do that, right? Part of the discussion we're having today is really predicated upon us knowing this business. And, in fact, we had shared a blog about this, earlier as well. But again, make sure that the ISVs that you're working with or the software providers have actually got good marketing out of the box materials for you to be able to run a campaign out of the box. The second one, as I mentioned, is, one of the things I want to mention is really around the word of mouth, right? Again, the way you're going to build credibility is by, putting in place some referral reward program, because your customer acquisition, right? A key part of your customer acquisition is really going to be based on the existing customers and them putting in a good word, either through a referral or one of the things that, we have seen a lot of MSPs do is in the contract, they put in a clause which says, hey, after the successful implementation or completion of this transition, you're actually gonna, work with us to develop a case study. And that case study really becomes, the precursor to actually, sharing that with, more customers and driving an acquisition strategy, right? And then finally, as I said, again, let's keep the foot on the pedal and make sure that sales is on an ongoing basis, still continuing to make those cold sale calls. And again, as I said, upsell is a key part of it. So again, they need to start or stay engaged with the customers as they start upselling new services to them, right? So that's going to make sure you got the revenue in the house. And again, you've got those, that revenue to be able to drive, marketing and a lead gen strategy for you overall.
And that's really good. That's really good. I think that also kind of goes into, the segmenting your audience. How would you segment and prioritize? And you already put together a nice slide with this one. So why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of an eye chart, right? But really what I wanted to focus on is that, it's critical, especially, where, a lot of customers have got similar needs, but not everyone is as exposed. Not everyone is willing to pay as much. And, some of these customers might be, high overhead on you, and you might not actually be getting the return as part of the services that you may be providing them, right? So again, it's critical for you to go through and identify who are the kind of customers or prospects that you want to pursue, right? Again, there's certain industries which are highly sensitive when it comes to things like security, for instance, right? We touched upon, healthcare, right? So again, if there are customers or prospects in that area, you want to kind of, have them be, top of your, pecking order as you start, doing some lead gen or, awareness out there. Right, you got to figure out, are they willing to pay for the security services, or do they have like a strong IT shop in house, and those are the ones who want to deliver the, security services, right? And again, you gotta, again internalize how much time are you spending with them today. If you're spending a lot of time with them today, you need to have that discussion with them and say, hey, you know what, we're spending a lot of time with you trying to address these issues that you have overall, your concern and your peace of mind around security, right? Again, we need to be able to figure out, a model where we can be successful and we can make you successful as part of that. Again, go through that process, do your ABC targeting as part of it, and your C's, leave them. Don't waste time on them. Again, focus on your high value customers who are actually going to be customers for you for the long time, but also these are going to be your mouthpieces, if you may, for you to be able to acquire new customers moving forward. And again, we have templates and all out there. So in case anyone wants it, please, go ahead and ping me and we can share them with you.
That's a great answer. All right. All right. So, and then we talked about the prioritization, but let's talk about sales model a little bit. Okay. How do you approach understanding the sales model and then kind of describing it to folks?
Yeah, I think, a couple of things around the sales model, right? I think firstly, there needs to be a structured approach, a consistent framework, the conversation that, you are having at your initial interaction with that prospect or customer, right? We kind of spoke about the targeting approach, right? Again, there needs to be clarity and there needs to be value as part of that discussion. Again, going back and, talking about the security example, right? Secure scores, right? That is top of mind for a lot of customers, right? That's kind of a Microsoft standard out there trying to, gauge and provide a baseline to customers, how successful they are and how successful they will be, if there is a security breach or a phishing attack in their organization, right? So again, that gets customer interest, right? They're like, oh, that's a pain point I have. Yes, they're having the right discussion with them, right? And again, share with them some of the insights, share with them some of the case studies that you might have, but also some of the learnings that you might have received from other MSPs and how they went about addressing some of those, customer security problems that they might have. One of the things that, we have done as part of our security manager product, for instance, is that we provide, a one-time assessment that the MSPs can go ahead and run with their customers. Again, that's when really the rubber hits the road, right? You go through an assessment, you figure out what their gaps are, and then you prioritize what are the areas that you need to focus on to be able to get them from point A to point B, right? No one's going to get to that nirvana land right away. They have to go through a journey. And then finally, that relationship or that credibility that you're built in really should translate into you now offering them a package of services which are actually going to make sure that they are well protected, they have got complete coverage, and at the same time they can focus on what they do best, which is productivity, as opposed to worrying about the overhead of security or other risks they might have.
So thank you, Aditya. Really do appreciate that. We're going to move on right now. We have a little bit more of his interview. If we've got some time at the end, we're going to go ahead and press the rest of his interview on there. Aditya is really a thought leader. So I just want to get into creating a go-to-market plan. So this is going to be potentially a little controversial because it might feel a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to basically show you how the best do it. And why it might be a little controversial because it's so detailed. Okay, so you'll understand it, you'll see it, and I would love to get your input, on the chat window, what you think about it. So the very first thing we're going to do here is we need to organize. We really need to figure out, who are we targeting, why are we targeting, and we need to stop doing this whole thing of it's called the shotgun approach. Okay, I see it all the time. I see it from salespeople to managers to companies. We're just going to shotgun it out there. We're going to go ahead and throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. The problem with that is you're never become an expert at one thing or being viewed as an expert at one thing. And it's just too much wasted effort. You're spinning this bike, there's like a little hamster, and not a lot of things are coming through. Because what you really need to do, and this is your pro tip number one to actually write down, is you need to build a list, okay, that has maybe between 40 and 100 potential targets. Okay, you have to do the research. Okay, and you have to go ahead 40 to 100 potential targets, and this would be per person that is out there doing your business development. Okay, so that's the very first pro tip. Pro tip number two, marketing. Now, we know that the majority of our partner base in the US spend between 1 to 3% of their gross revenue on marketing. You know what Microsoft does? Microsoft, or not Microsoft, McDonald's, they spend 22% on marketing. That's why you make yourself, you probably have all heard about that, right? But that's why you're driving down, you see Microsoft, and subconsciously, all of a sudden you go, whoop, I'm going to get some French fries, right? Right? We all suffer from that one. Okay, so let's just understand this. Marketing, so important. You need to increase your spend probably between 12 and 15, maybe even 20% if you're going to go to a net new customer acquisition model. You have to be committed to it. You can't start and stop. That's another thing that we see in here, starting and stopping, or, okay, I'm going to do this for a month and see if I get some deals. That's not how this works. Net new customer acquisition is one of the hardest things, but if you understand the consistent nature that you need to do to get it in, and knowing how persistence is, then you can really build a machine that is consistent every single month. Now, the first thing that you need to focus on is pro tip number three. Oh, actually, let me back up for a second. Let's talk about that list a little bit. You need to divide this up. You need to figure out, are you going to do metro? Is it a metro motion? Is it a national motion? Or is it a vertical motion? I would really work on the vertical motion if I were you. Now, a lot of you MSPs like to have the metro motion, right? It's just kind of right around you. But let's talk about verticals, because you can start doing things in verticals that you start doing over and over again. You're seeing the same pain points that you're seeing there, and you're actually using that data to actually help you out with the customer acquisition. The next thing you need to do is figure out what you do that's different from every other IT company out there. There are too many companies out there that do the same thing or say the same thing. They say, oh, we're the best at remediation. You'll always call us up, and we will be there for you, and we take care of our clients, and we don't lose any clients, and we're the best at this. Well, sorry to break the news to you, but literally every other IT company says the exact same thing. So how are you different? How are you different than your competitors? And what you have to figure out here is, what are you doing that's different? Oh, I have the fastest SLA. I'd say bullshit. You probably don't. Sorry, I know that's a little aggressive, but I'd say bullshit. You probably don't. There's other people out there. So stop saying the same thing over and over again, or what everyone else is saying. Figure out how you differentiate. And that's where vertical markets actually really work well, because you actually understand it. Right? You're out there, you're like, yeah, in healthcare, we have a lot of healthcare clients. These are some of the similar problems. We specialize in healthcare because we know what the problems are in healthcare. Super, super important. Okay, now your next pro tip here is divide by 3. Current customers for referrals. Now, this is for net new customer acquisition. Okay, your current customers for referrals. So you're going to go to all your customers and say, hey, who do you know that I could talk? And actually, you're going to say this: whom do you know I should reach out to that could benefit from what we do? You like us. And the reason why you're putting the M on it, because it's assumptive that they will tell you. They will tell you somebody. So you got your first third. Okay, you got to start with your referrals there. Then next is, you need to start looking into your Rolodex of all the people you worked with over the past 10 years or had business with. And you start calling them up and saying, hey, do you have any partners that, or any customers that I might get introduced to? Right, using LinkedIn or whatnot. So that's just there. And then the third piece that you're going to have is the cold outreach. Now, that's the tough part, but we have some commitments to help you do that. So this is where the controversy comes in, because you might think I'm a little nuts, okay? But what we do is we build a dossier on every client that we're looking to try to go out to. And what I mean by that is we have a folder, okay, for every single client. Now, inside that dossier, we include the summary of what the company does, the technology that they consume, what differentiates them from their competitors. We read their 10K if they have one. We understand everything that's about them, and we're building a case of really understanding. Then what we do is we then get the top 5 contacts in each one of these companies. Okay, top 5. Because what we need to understand is, who are they? What do they do? What do they influence? And what are the politics? Because you could be trying to reach out to, let's say, the director of IT or whoever, but he's got no juice, right? And you want to use social engineering to go ahead and social scraping to figure out what they do. Go to Facebook, you're going to LinkedIn, you're going in there and you're basically trying to make friends. And that's really, if I do a sidebar here, sales is really about, or net new customer acquisition is really about making friends. That's really what it is. And then building trust, right? So how do you get in? You have to think about how to get in. So in the dossier, we actually have all of this stuff there. So we know a lot of stuff about the people we're talking about before we even talk to them, because that's going to be part of our strategy to actually talk to them. Because that's the other one of the hardest pieces. How do we open a conversation with somebody where they don't feel like they're going to be hit up like a car salesman, right? And figure that out, right? And then part of the other thing too is you want to find their likes and their dislikes, their politics, in the company, what awards they've actually had there, and you're putting that in, and you're using that information to figure out how to target those people to get involved. Now, when you're going into companies that have 4 or 5 or 10 influencers inside of that, you're going to know it's a long tail approach. It's not something that is, just going to happen. Now, go back to your current sales tactics, and are your people doing that right now? They should be if they're not doing that. But that's why it's so important to have 40 to 100 accounts that you're going after. Okay, not 1,000, the whole, spray and pray. You can never do this. But find the top 40, find the 500, and make sure they've got enough money where they're making money that they can afford your services. Don't aim too high, because like Chevron is never going to, hire any one of us, right? They have their own department. But then don't stop aiming too low. Know who you are and figure out what you can do, and then figure out inside that dossier, what is it that you do that's going to help somebody in those 5 contacts either retire a quota, either make their life easier, and that's your strategy to kind of go in after them. Now, with that being said, you're going to then assign those accounts, and this is from the higher level, to the BDs, okay, your business development people, and you're going to task them with targeting those accounts, upload them to CRM, and really build out the go-to-market motion. Now, what's also interesting inside of this is managing your employees, okay, managing your salespeople. And you have to use a CRM. You have to. And you have to make sure they use the CRM, and that is your only thing. All right, hold on a second. I'm getting I got to turn my notifications. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go to our next speaker, and that's Walter, and he's got some great information on partnering. It's really kind of cool. So let's listen to Walter.
Hey, Walter, thanks so much for coming on today. Really do appreciate it. You're a leader, a captain of industry, and, just really appreciating the fact that you're going to help us share some of your thoughts regarding net new customer acquisition and maybe how to work it. There's a lot of different ways. There's 50 ways to Sundays to skin this cat, whether you're a partner, whether you're in the channel, whether you're an integrator, right? There's just a lot of different ways. Would you mind just introducing yourself first and what you guys do? And then maybe get into, what separates you, differentiates you from the noise.
Yeah. Thanks, Sherman. Glad to be here. I always love to do the pomp. We started the company in 2011, and we are a custom development firm. We were recently acquired by another larger company specialized in the energy and construction industries. And so that's kind of our industry focus now, but we are a custom development and business process efficiency firm. So we're looking to help companies utilize the technologies they've already got and in-house, and helping them build new solutions to kind of close those gaps. In the Microsoft stack, we're doing that with Power Platform. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. How do we distinguish ourselves from other companies? There is a lot of noise out there. I mean, I think the perfect example is the AI thing that happened. It's stunning how many companies now are completely AI driven as of March of 2023, and that's their offering is all about AI. And so how do you distinguish yourself from everybody who's also doing all of those things? And that's, obviously we've all got those AI tool sets. We've had them truthfully for years to some degree, but from our perspective as a smaller company, we're not the size of a lot of the biggest firms that you're going to hear from either today or that you're going to work with. Not every customer is the same. Some of them want a one-stop shop. Some of them are trying to find best of breed. But smaller companies like us, we can't be both. You don't want to sound like the used car salesman that as soon as they say there's one, hey, I'm looking for somebody that does this. Oh yeah, I can do that. Let me go back and talk to my manager or find somebody. So you want to have, kind of what you do and well defined, but then also have a kind of, we believe in partnerships so that we can build that ecosystem of people that we can work with and those services that we can offer.
Oh, that's great. That's really fantastic. So let me get to the next question. Do you rely more on proactive outbound sales efforts or inbound lead generation to acquire net new customers? And consequently, does your organization struggle with generating net new leads?
Yeah, the smaller you are, the harder it is to rise above the noise of Google search and things like that for people to find you. So, I firmly believe in everything: air, land, and sea, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, whatever it takes to get the message out. At the end of the day, you need to be where your customer is living, but you also need to, they're seeing all kinds of messaging out there, so you've got to get out in front of them too. SEO is great for trying to rise above some of that noise in Google search, but your competition's using the same search terms too and all that. So at the end of the day, nothing replaces relationships more than people that are talking, right? And so referrals are a great way to get your net new, but it's not super predictable. And so again, I go back to partnerships. Partnerships are great because you've got other people that are talking directly to their customers, and kind of having that predefined. When I hear this service, I may not do it, but I'm not going to walk away and say, oh, that's not me. I'm going to turn around and refer that customer to somebody else. You work out those relationship parameters ahead of time so that you're not fumbling around, and it just, for the customer, it feels like, oh yeah, they've done this before. It's a seamless service.
That's a great answer. I really appreciate that. So are there particular industries or market segments that you found a lot more success in acquiring net new customers? And then if that's the case, how have you tailored your sales strategies to target those specific segments?
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite questions, at least for us as a custom development shop. for it's for every industry, but at the same time, you do need to be focused on it's helpful for you as a both a sales group and for execution to have experience with the processes and the terminology and everything within that industry. So my thinking on this has evolved over the years, but I definitely feel like focusing on some industries is very helpful, even in custom development. Energy engineering and construction have been really good to us over the past year. Some other, we've worked in healthcare, very long sales cycles. So we focused more in some of these other industries that, quite frankly, also have historically been laggards in technology. If you look at these groups, they their field technology is paper in a lot of cases, and so we do a lot of work with like I said, energy, construction, engineering to help them modernize in the field. There's a lot of unique processes in there where we're able to find an opportunity to modernize and transform those things to be a more streamlined process. Get that information from the field to their customer in a more streamlined and a quicker process, and that helps them differentiate themselves to their customer.
Oh, that's great. That's really fantastic. So, Walter, let's talk about partnerships a little bit. This is something that you're very, very strong in, right? How do you leverage partnerships or collaborations to enhance customer acquisition efforts? And has there been anything notable that you might want to bring up that has helped with acquisition of a net new client?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the biggest partnership for everybody on here is probably Microsoft, because it's a Microsoft voice of the partner. But we're all Microsoft partners, and Microsoft's going to change those things over time. I prefer to rely directly on the partners, right? So, sometimes you can't know everything that's going to come up, so you can't have every situation covered ahead of time. But I'm a firm believer in what's worked for us, which has been going out and saying, okay, we know that people are going to be looking for cybersecurity. I find that a lot of times when I talk to a company, they're not necessarily concerned with somebody local for development, but with cybersecurity and some of their MSP needs, they're looking for somebody who can occasionally come into the office and physically be present. And, if there's cabling and wiring involved, you definitely need to physically be there to do that. So, for us, we've been working to find partners in the cities and regions where we work, and having those lined up ahead of time. I don't have everything covered, but I've got some good partnerships in different areas with different specialties. And, and I think, there's industry specific people. I mean, the more you can speak their language, or your partnerships can speak their language, the better off you are. So I find that figuring out what are those, anticipating what those are, and establishing those relationships ahead of time is really helpful. Ultimately, when you're in that sales call, you never know what's going to come up, and if you're fumbling or you're not sure about who you would call, you might lose that. You might lose that opportunity. So
I think that's very poignant. And plus, what you do too, the size of the company doesn't matter. It's very interesting. Like most MSPs are like, okay, after 250 seats, 300 seats, they start getting their own IT company. We don't need them, right? And so, but you're talking to monster organizations, because yours is a professional service, right? And I think it complements the MSP narrative. If you're going in together, right, and still maybe you're not necessarily getting that MSP portion, the managed services just yet, but get a little piece of the professional services, make that wedge, get in there, and then expand. So I think that that's where it really works together.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So Walter, this last question is really about performance or key performance indicators, KPIs. Now, KPIs mean say many different things to many different people. Okay, tracking what you do, how you do it is very, very different. So no one way is right, no one way is wrong. So how do you track that? I mean, what are you doing to evaluate the effectiveness of your sales strategies for customer net new acquisition?
Some might say I go a little overboard. As a data guy and a Power BI background, I've built myself too many dashboards and thrown away several of them in favor of the next new one. Yeah, at the end of the day, I want to know how many conversations are we having with new versus existing customers, but I'm also segmenting it by, again, referrals and partnerships. And, at the end of the day, I'm really looking to figure out how many of those are coming to us at what stage every month, right? And I do look at it by every month, because depending upon the industry, some of these things, I know the sales cycle in healthcare is 6 months. It just is at minimum. It takes forever. Some other industries, they're much more shovel ready, and not to use the pun with the construction and things like that. But those folks, they come in and they know what they want, right? They're like, okay, I've had this problem. I'm tired of it. And I know that technology can solve it. Help me. Tell me what you can do to solve this problem. So my KPIs vary by both industry and by the source of the lead. If they came to me over the web, or if they came through a Google ad, they're more likely to be looky-loos and not necessarily be really sure if they're going to go ahead and do this. If they come to us through a partner or a referral from another customer, they're likely to have budget and a scope, and they're kind of like, I need someone that I can trust to pull this off. And that's why I really love the partnership leads so much more than any other effort, because partners, especially ones that we've worked with before, they already know, hey, I need to do these like 2 or 3 questions before everybody wastes their time.
All right, thank you, Walter. Really appreciate that. We're gonna just get going here, as we've got another interview that we did with Victor Gallego. But I wanted to show you things. So you all know here that I'm the president of Surveil, and I want to play a quick video. We just actually not just yet. Let me tee this up. We've actually made a big change, a big pivot on how we're going to market, and really what it's all about is, the tool is the first of its kind that uses read-only access into a Microsoft licensing environment. Our material change is that we're using this for data mining for professional services. So if you have a partner, basically you unload 100 of your clients, right, onto the tool. And then what you do is use our new, we have a multi-tenant view, and then you have a new, what's called a campaign manager. So in the campaign, you can say, I want to filter all my clients that have savings of 10% or greater. I want to find out any client that needs remediation on VM optimization, hybrid use benefit, reserved instance. Or I want to filter for all partners that have, more than 20% of their identities that have no activity dates in 360 days. So AD cleanup, right? Or security, people that need more conditional access policies. You run the campaign manager, and then what it does is it'll go ahead and say, okay, out of your 100 clients that are on, here are 9 that need remediation. Then you take those and you send them over to your business development and say, hey, go call ABC, because we looked at their account, they need remediation and security hardening. Wow. Now, and what partners are finding is a 4 times ROI in the first 6 months. Really crazy. Let's go ahead and play the video. All right, so thank you everybody for watching that. We just got a little poll. If you're interested in learning a little bit more, go ahead and say yes. Let's go ahead and throw the poll out there. Now we're going to get right when the poll's coming up. I want to get right into the outreach strategy. So what I did here is I already put all these outreach ideas inside of the chat window. Now, with that being said, just one really quick thing to help you understand like differentiation. So our business is built solely on this call. Just I want to be open about it. Okay. It's an industry call that we put together. This is number 39, the 39th show that we've done. We always do it every Friday. And the idea is to we give good, great information, right? And by the way, the poll's anonymous. No one's gonna be able to see who voted for what. Okay. So just if you want to do that. Now, the thing is, the call like this is probably one of your best ways of really net new customer acquisition. I'm not kidding. We get 2 to 3 calls to talk to people after every single one, and you're giving back. You're building a community. You're building trust. You're building, not just trust, but viability, right? As an expert in the industry. And you should be doing this for your top industry inside of your organization, right? So if you're serving healthcare, you should do a healthcare call that's once a month. Start slowly building it. We started with 13 the very first show. Now with LinkedIn, we get about on average around 500 people. Okay, just think about that, right? Think about the scale of that. That's one of your best ones. So I want to go ahead. I put a bunch of stuff that was in there. I just want to share it with you on outreach strategy, and maybe I'll touch a little bit more on it. I'll create a video on this because there's a lot of things inside of those that are really, really awesome ideas. And this is the thing. There's no one idea. Okay. And I want to stress this. Most partners or these sellers for partners, well, I sent them 2 emails and they didn't call me back. Or I got the best one. I was talking to this guy and I was like, what's your method of customer acquisition? He goes, I call it 3-strike method. I go, 3-strike method? What do you mean? And he goes like, well, yeah, if I email them and they don't respond to me, strike 1. If I call them, they don't respond to me, strike 2. Then I'll send one more email, and then strike 3, I'll never talk to them again. And he said it like this. He's like, yeah. All right. And I'm like, oh my God. And the first statement to me was, we're having trouble building revenue. Yeah, you got the 3-strike rule. Anyways, just want to talk about that. Thanks so much for the poll there. We're going to go ahead and close that one out. I know, right? 3-strike rule. I want to play a little bit of Victor. We're going to come right up to the end of the hour. I'm very sorry. We're going to probably have to cut him off a little bit, but we're going to play that and then we're going to do the giveaway. Okay? Sounds good.
Hey, Victor, thanks so much for coming on today. Really do appreciate it. You have such a wealth of expertise, and just wanted to see if we can ping you with a few questions here and give us your updates. For the first and foremost, would you mind just kind of introducing yourself to the to the crowd here and a little bit about your background?
Sure. Thank you, Sherman, for inviting me. My name is Victor Gallego. I'm currently working at IBM. But from this discussion perspective, most recently I was Senior Vice President of Sales at Technology Integration Group, which recently got acquired by Converge back in July. It's actually almost a year now. So a lot of pertinent information, what I've learned, right, being there for 4 years, will help other partners like a TIG kind of learn what I've learned over those 4 years. And obviously touch points on my current responsibility at IBM.
Awesome. And that's why I really wanted to bring you on here today. Just, you got a wealth of information. We worked together when you were at TIG on a lot of things, and I just really admired the way that you managed that team. It was a lot of people. So, with that being said, I think one of the first things to talk about really is differentiation. How did when you're working with the reps and giving them guidance, how did you differentiate yourself when going into other type of competitive situations?
Yeah. From an AE perspective, obviously, they own a lot of the day-to-day with that particular customer. But I think the people in the background, which is really more of the technical architects and engineers, really help distinguish us from others, right? You heard the term defense wins Super Bowls, right? Firms with great technical background, right? We're calling them engineers and architects really win over the customers because, you know, eye from eye, right? They know exactly what needs to happen from, you know, an enterprise perspective. So I would say technical folks is what wins in the market space. So that's our defense.
All right, I like that. I like that. So, you know, if we're talking about net new customer acquisition, you know, one of the things that a lot of people always ask is outbound sales versus inbound lead generation to acquire net new customers, right? Did maybe start with just the answer to that, and then also, you know, did your organization struggle with getting net new leads?
Yeah, I think, you know, everybody struggles because nowadays nobody picks up the phone, right? I mean, look at yourself. You basically reply to text faster than you do voicemails. So really, the digital marketing era is really the way to go. I would say, you know, TIG and really what's happening at IBM in the forefront is going to be on hybrid approach, right? Where you're outbound, it's going to be the field sellers with their networks of contacts, right? Uh, Inbound is critical right now because that's really driving more of the digital, especially if you're in a smaller firm, right? A partner, um, you have to really partner up with third-party marketing firms to really help you with that lead generation. The reason is because, you know, whether you're using Dun and Bradstreet or Zoom Info, could be really costly, right? You're talking up to $200,000, right? Really, from a yearly license subscription perspective, you can't really scale as fast as they do since they could really pinpoint that line of business, whether it's the IT director or CIO. So, you know, I think from a lead generation, you kind of have to have both.
I think we need to push play.
That's really good. If I might just add one other small part, you know, because you're directly in sales, how do you feel about, I know this is a little different than we talked about, but how do you feel about managing via a CRM? Like, should your folks really,
All right,
adhere to that?
let's
I
go
know
ahead.
it's
Let's go ahead and we'll stop right here. We're gonna do the giveaway and then we'll keep playing it. For those who want to listen to Victor, we'll keep playing it. So let's I think Andres or Josh, you have our winner for the Surface. Do you want to go ahead and put it in the chat window? All right, we're our crack team of Surface giveaway people are coming up with the winner here. Let's see, Andres, why don't you come off of mute?
Okay, so I'm looking here. The team is deliberating. We've got our Crancer Group Services winner is Neil Zimmerman. Round of applause.
All right, Neil, good job. So we'll contact you. You can use it a couple different ways. It's Neil. It's demand gen stuff. So it's going to be pretty cool. And we'll talk about it. And we can use it a couple different ways. So we'll go there. Awesome, Neil. We'll reach out to you. All right,
And
who won the Surface?
Our Surface winner is Emmanuel Rabaya. Congratulations.
Emmanuel. All right, there you go. All right, is he still on? Is he still here? Let's just see. We got to get some response here, Emmanuel. Yeah, he is. Okay, awesome. Hey, everybody, thanks so much. But let's go back and play the rest of this video. I tell you, oh, yeah, the next session is best and worst marketing tips for MSPs is next month. But I want to go ahead and play the rest of the video with Victor. So yeah, he's got some. Dude, he's got it's unbelievable.
Hey, Victor, thanks so much
all right, let's go back and play.
Right. Inbound is critical right now because that's really, you know, I think from a lead generation, you kind of have to have both.
That's really good. If I might just add one other small part, you know, because you're directly in sales, How do you feel about, I know this is a little different than we talked about, but how do you feel about managing via a CRM? Like, should your folks really, adhere to that? I know it's from sales. We always talk about
Yeah, I
this.
know. I think CRM is the key because you kind of have to track it through the life cycle. Unfortunately, some of the AEs out there don't want to know or don't want you to be in their business, but you have to make them disciplined to do that through the sales cycle. Um, and I think that's key. Unfortunately, you're kind of, pushing the thumb a little bit to make sure that, they do that. At least at TIG, we made sure our AEs are doing that on a weekly basis. And the same thing, especially now with, Salesforce, it's a pretty dominant tool that we use. It's really the tool that you want to make sure it's fully ingrained into your organization. And I think if you don't have it, your probability of failing is high because you don't have the crux or the arms around what's going on in the business.
So our next question is, how do you leverage partnerships or collaboration to enhance your customer acquisition efforts? I mean, I know you and I, and as we get older, things change, right? Sometimes we lose a little bit of our energy of cold calling, but like, how do you leverage partnerships, like from your perspective?
It's kind of twofold. Obviously, you have your vendor relationship, whether it's the manufacturer or the software vendor out there. Obviously, the key behind them is lead generation because partners out there need that funding, right, to make sure they pull in that, we'll just call it co-marketing or headquarters funds to help you with lead generation. And vendors understand this because to them, the big army is going to be business partners or vendors, not vendors, but resellers like a TIG to provide them that scale, especially, the smaller boutique vendors out there. They rely heavily on partners to do that. Let's see, when it comes to acquisitions and collaboration efforts, I think it's going to be twofold, right? What I always emphasize is kind of do whether it's a QBR or a planning session with the field team so they integrate what they're going to target or what they're not going to target, right? It's most importantly, right? Because you don't want to spend time if somebody else is in that particular account.
Metrics or key performance indicators do you think or do you track to evaluate the performance of your sales strategies or net new customer acquisition?
Like we talked about it earlier, the key points is to just really using that CRM, right, and moving it through the cycle. And if you look at Salesforce, it's about 5 cycles moving it through. One of the things, especially in enterprise sales, it's going to be a long cycle, right? It could be 12 to 18 months. That's why you have to be disciplined, right? If you think about it, the time from POC testing to the time somebody actually gives you a firm PO, that thing could take up to 18 months, right? So you kind of have to be patient to do that. And you kind of have to obviously hire the right folks, right, to make sure they walk through that cycle and still actually have a paycheck coming in at the same time.
Are there any particular industries or market segments that you're thinking about or that you think are really hot right now that would be good for net new acquisition?
So I would say mid-sized enterprise, so anything from 1,000 to 10,000 employee size is really the key because what they're trying to do is reduce the amount of IT infrastructure they have internally. So they have to go to a business partner out there or a reseller to help them manage their IT. Nowadays, what you're seeing is really IT as a service, software as a service. So everything is around that, I would say, subscription-based consumption from a monthly perspective. And that's really where I think the industry's going, right? It's just basically as a service. So we're seeing a lot of those customers hopping over, especially, around, again, the 1,000 to 10,000 seats.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I'm going to make a statement here that is a little bit off, and I wanted to see if you agree with this. When I look at a lot of salespeople that are inside of our industry, I notice that they're sending 1 or 2 or 3 emails, or they're sending 1 or 2, making 1 or 2 phone calls, and then they kind of just, well, if I don't have any interest, they kind of move on to the second one, not understanding quite that most people aren't ready to buy today, but maybe they're going to be tomorrow, or they're going to be 6 months down the road. And I think a lot of our sellers aren't spending enough time inside of that, and dedicating enough time to that constant ritual of reaching out, even if they're getting the no's, to get to that point where you almost literally need to get somebody to say, hey, look, I thank you so much, but please stop bugging me. So, like, with that kind of statement and that kind of assumption, what is your opinion on that? Do you see a lot of that as well, or managing different teams?
I do, Sherman. Really, it's a long term, right? It has to be multiple touches. For example, we had an opportunity at TIG. It was a total cold up lead generation from a third party, and it didn't close till 2 years later. But again, it's multiple touches, right? Because you're calling on the enterprise. You can't really go in there and say, hey, by the way, buy this particular vendor line, because it's never going to work. You kind of have to show your value, whether you're showing a similar situation they're going through, right, to another customer reference, or targeted a specific workload that they might be interested in. So you kind of have to go in more of like a Trojan horse. And nowadays, the biggest strategy out there is around cyber resiliency, right, or security. You just can't go in there and say, hey, we have the greatest, hardware tool out there. It's just not going to work anymore.
Yeah, it's understanding your business too, right? Transactional versus, is it more of a long-term play? And I think a lot of our partners kind of, because of the way they've got acquisitions or new customers, and that's usually the I'm on fire method. Somebody's got a problem, you call them, you fix it, you got a customer, right? But net new customer acquisition is a lot tougher, and it's a long tail, right? But you got to keep hitting those, keep pushing that stuff in the funnel, right? We all know that whole idea of the funnel, but it actually is so prevalent, right?
Yeah, I mean, you really got to show them, how your particular solution is going to save them money down the line, right? Because nobody wants to tell you, I'm going to, I want to spend more money, right? They're basically picking up the phone, calling you, either, like you said earlier, the hair is on fire, or they're trying to save money and see if your solution that you're trying to invoke is going to really save them money down the line.
Well, Victor, thank you so much. Really do appreciate your time here. I know it's a quick one, but we just love to hear, from different leaders in the industry. Want to say thanks again and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sherman. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Sherm, you're on mute, my friend.
And I was just talking. I had the best stuff to say too. Son of a gun. Thanks everybody for coming to the Voice of the Microsoft Partner. Really appreciate it. Absolutely. It was a great one today. Come next month. Next month is best and worst marketing ideas. Talk to you guys later. Have a great afternoon. 4th of July. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.